Okay, check. It should be on now. Check. Thank you.
Good job. Yeah, we were having some technical difficulties,
Check.
some timeical difficulties.
Time ago. Okay, so
Alrighty,
audio.
ready?
Yep.
Officially
So
ready?
audio is now on. Yes. Hello.
Hello, welcome to the Andre and Soli podcast. We talk about traditional values in relationships and in marriage. Well, I guess marriage is relationships, and bringing back those values and bringing back the family. And we're so grateful that you all are here. It's been over a year, I believe, since we have even recorded a podcast, which is crazy, and a lot has happened during that time. So we'll just briefly give you a little life update. One, I had a baby. I had a whole nother child.
Ooh.
His name is Eric, and he is 3 months old now.
Cute.
What else happened, Andre? That's all that happened. We have so much that happened, but just Eric.
Well,
Was
that's a pretty
born.
big thing. I mean, he's 3 months old,
Yeah.
so he's pretty tiny. I got a studio here.
Yes.
We got a studio set up, and
Yeah.
we're very happy about that. So now we have more ways to be able to record
Yeah. So now,
songs,
yeah,
live streams, everything of that sort.
yeah, and now our bedroom is an actual bedroom and not a recording studio with a bed.
Which that I'm kind of sad about, but
Well, change is good. But
sometimes I
it's
do miss
better
it.
though. It is better.
It is better for
because
sure.
you have this whole thing. And anyways, so today we're talking about something that happened. What happened?
What happened? Why did I? Oh, what happened was I made my wife delete her Instagram. Gasp. I said, "Woman, what you doing on Instagram? Shut that thing down right now. Shut that thing down. Get barefoot. Get in the kitchen,
And let me
and let's get pregnant." No, I'm just kidding.
No. He actually okay. This title is a little bit clickbait because didn't actually even make me delete my Instagram. Okay. Um. We just put it on private and decided to go on a hiatus for an indefinite amount of time. And why, Andre? Why did you do this to me?
Can you tell them so that I can send this to the
Oh. Okay,
Instagram
I guess
people?
I'm telling you. He made me delete my Instagram because really what he wanted was for my focus to be able to shift, and he wanted me to be able to help him with some of his endeavors in life and to also have more focus on the babies in the home. And so he decided, okay, Instagram is taking a big chunk of time. And it wasn't just taking my time, really. I feel like it might have even been taking more of his time because in terms of my back to basics traditional homemaking e-course that I also launched during the time that we were not doing podcasts, he was doing a lot of the business end of things, and so that would take up a lot of his time. Like he would have to set everything up, all the websites and everything for people to be able to purchase it and get it. And so he was doing a lot of that and coming up with ideas of like how are we going to like what sales are we going to do, like how are we basically going to get people to buy the course. So if my Instagram was out of the picture, if we weren't doing the course, then there would really be no need for me to like be on Instagram. I mean, there's a need, but like not an immediate need. Like, okay, how do we get money out of this if we're gonna stop promoting the course? so that he can have free time to do his own things. So that's what had happened. And I know it makes, I know Andre is this, controlling evil tyrant. Um, but that's okay. Like, I can live with that. So do you have anything else you would like to add?
um, well, do you want to, I would like to say that it's kind of amazing the transformation that I saw in Soli when she stopped using her Instagram. Like it's so crazy because all that time and mental energy, and as Sully says, it's not so much the time; it's more like the mental energy it takes to keep up with the messages, the people
Mm-hmm.
responding to you, and just thinking about something you saw and how you're gonna respond to it, or how what you're gonna post. All these things take mental energy. So those are the things that like she didn't have to think about anymore, and therefore she just went like super homemaker mode.
Super
she
homemaker mode.
she went like super homemaker mode. She found this method for keeping the house, keeping up with the house and all the chores and the children. She found a method she really liked and that worked well for her, and she just went all in. And it became really, really, really awesome to see her blossom in that because honestly, I didn't even really every time it happened beforehand, I was like, oh, that sounds nice, but like I wasn't really interested, And then when I saw like the results, I was like, my goodness, she's so joyful about all these things, and she's so hardworking that it's really awesome to see
Yeah.
how she's like joyful about working harder. Like every time everything she did is like, now I'm gonna wake up earlier, and now I'm gonna make sure that I get that I clean these places every day, and like doing it with a joyful attitude. I was like, oh my gosh, that is really really awesome.
Yeah. It has been really awesome. But I wanted to say first, like, what I thought immediately when you were like, I think you should, make your Instagram private. Um, because I don't know, because there is, most people they understand, but there is this group of people online that think that you are just like manipulative and controlling and a tyrant,
So
like I
true.
called you earlier.
And they'd be right.
And so basically he was like, so Andre throws out ideas all the time. Like, he's always thinking like, this is what we're going to do, and then like maybe we do that, or he comes up with another idea and he's like, no, instead we're going to do this. Like, he's always like doing that. And so he said, I think I want you to put your Instagram on private. I think we're going to just shut it down for a bit. And I was like, okay. And then I wasn't actually sure like if it was going to happen or not, because like Andre said that kind of thing before, but then nothing ever comes of it. And then later that day, he's like, so how do you think we should tell people? And I was like, oh, it's really happening. And I was like, okay. And I was obviously fine with it because you can't hold on to Instagram that tightly. And the only thing that I didn't really love was the idea of like, I don't know if like I'm ever going to come back on here and connect with the same people. But I realized like it would be fine. So I just went along with it and realized that it's really not that big of a deal because it's just social media. And I have, a community in real life, not just on social media. And that is, although the people I connect with on social media are real and I love them and would love to meet so many of them, the real life is better. And so there's no point in arguing, and I knew that if I felt some type of way about it, if I felt like angry or even sad, I knew that would be a sign that this is really bad for me anyways. I should not feel that level of attachment to an app, really. um And especially because then that would also be the exact me going against the exact thing I preach, you know. Preach, quote unquote, because women shouldn't be preachers. Um but yeah, I knew also if I tried to fight it or anything, then that would just be a big red flag in my own personal life of, wow, it sounds like I really do need to detach myself from social media. And I really need to, submit to Andre and what he wants to do. And I was on board because I knew like he wants the best for us and for me and our family. Like he loves me, he cares about me, he likes my Instagram platform too, and connecting with you all too. So it's not just like he's like taking away my thing that I love, it's like he has friends on there too, like through my page as well. So yeah.
Yeah. I think at the end of the day, there has to be a purpose, a clear purpose for everything. And I think for most people, even though it's kind of funny because, like, we're both on social media, we enjoy connecting with people, but at the same time, there has to be a purpose for why you're on there. And I think for most people, it's probably just not a good idea to be on there all the time. You
Mm-hmm.
know, um, for even for us, a lot of the time, it's probably not a good
Yeah.
idea because it has to be a purpose. Like what's the
Mm-hmm.
purpose? If you are on there to put a message out, great. If you're on there to make money as a business, great. Let your family know how you're doing from time to time, great. Besides that, I mean, there's not really like a reason to be keeping up with everything that's going on all the time. And it's like it really actually affects everyone's mentality. And when you're having to deal with all these things and you don't see a bigger purpose for it all, then it can start to wear you down.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something yeah. And then the other thing is I think it's true. I mean, a lot of people would think that, oh my, like Andre's being so controlling. And to a certain extent, I think they'd be right, you know, but not in a bad way,
Yeah.
because I think people would think like, oh, controlling is like a bad thing, or like a narcissistic sort of thing.
Well,
But
is
you
there?
hear all the time people say, oh, they're out of control. They're out of control. It's like somebody's got to keep people in control. Like somebody's got to take
Yeah.
control. And I'm not saying that was happening with Soli, but I'm just saying that for a lot of people, this was not the case with Soli at all. But I do see some women, even in the traditional sphere and even in the conservative and all this stuff, that they've developed such a big ego because of social media or even hatred towards other people, and
Mm-hmm.
just like it just becomes nasty. And I really think like in those cases the husband should say no, you should
Oh yeah.
stop that, and shut that down.
Yeah.
Like I
And
said, that was not the case with Soli at all. It was definitely all about mental space and clarity.
yeah.
But yeah, you do have to set, if it did come to that point, I would definitely be like, hey, what's the point of you being on here? You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like you have to take, as the man, you have to take that authority, and you do have authority. I don't care what people say, you have the authority as a man, and you can
Yeah.
say no, this is not what we're doing, or this is what we are doing. Some people are not going to like that. Some people are going to think that I'm a terrible person because of that, and that's fine, they can think that. But it's the truth. It's how you have to deal with as a man. You're not doing it, like Soli said, for the benefit of your own self. It's at the detriment of your wife and your children. You're doing it for the sake of the family, for the sake
Mm-hmm.
of the family unit. That's why you're doing it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when you have that in mind, then it makes sense why you would do that.
Yeah. And I just thought of this. Okay, I have two things. One, getting off my social media is not something that I would have done in and of myself. Like, I mean, maybe, but at that time I wasn't thinking, oh, I just need a break from social media. So it was so helpful that Andre did what he did and said what he said, because I'm not even kidding you. Maybe it has nothing to do with the social media, but I think there it does. But I've gone through some life changing growth since being off of Instagram, and it's been
Yes,
really amazing.
I can totally
And
see that.
now I have so much more, I feel like, that I can even bring to the table in the homemaking and traditional sphere. So,
So true.
and the other thing I thought was, is there a difference between controlling and being in control, or do they just like to pretend they're like, I don't know.
I mean, there's definitely a time when I think some men um, take authority for the authority that God has given them for the wrong reasons. I
Like
mean,
they
that's
take
normal.
advantage
They
of
take
it.
advantage of that authority to say like, you're gonna do this just because I want to, and it's like it's clear that it doesn't benefit the family at all. In this
Mhm.
case, like it was so clear that it benefited our family. You know, like
Mhm.
I'm telling you, like Soli was like, as soon as that was done, and she was like, oh, you know, she started to focus on her family so much that it became such a peaceful environment at home because there were so many things around the house that she just like took even more charge of.
And I it's because I think part of it is I had the time to learn. In my downtime, I wasn't scrolling on social media. In my downtime, I was listening to homemakers that have practical advice and um trying to manage my time better and be more productive, and it really has been amazing um to be able to do those things without the burden also of feeling like, oh, I have to post this on social media. Oh, I did this and I'm going to post this on social media. Like, it was just so nice to like do something and not post about it, or not even think about posting about it and just take pictures of a clean room or a meal or what I'm doing just for myself and just for the memory of it. So,
Just thanks for the memories. Um, I want to pull this video up. Maybe we can
So
react to it. Um, so I don't know what part of the video is good, but we can. You want to say
can I
something?
say something real
Yeah, yeah.
quick? Because this is something Andre and I were talking about as well. Is so a husband. A lot of you are like, okay, a husband says, I don't want you on social media, and you're like, okay, yeah, you should submit to in that. But what about if a boyfriend says to his girlfriend, you don't need to be on social media, get off social media? What do you think,
Well,
Andre?
I just gulped right in front of the mic. Yeah, I. That's a good question. That's a great question. Should basically the question boils down to should a girlfriend submit to her boyfriend?
Mm-hmm.
I think that the girlfriend should show signs that she would submit
Mm-hmm.
when they are married, but she doesn't have the obligation to. So she can think about it and she can say, no, I think I'm gonna keep it, or she can keep that in mind, right? Maybe they're really close to marriage and she does see it as a good idea to not do it. I think it would make sense. If it makes sense, if it's a good decision, you have to weigh the pros and cons. But she also doesn't have the obligation to. I don't think she's doing anything wrong with saying no. I don't want to.
Yeah.
But you do have to think about what it is that you want at the end of the day,
Mm-hmm.
because it doesn't really make sense. Like I see some men that are like, "Oh, I want you to take your Instagram down because you have booty pictures and bikini pictures, and I want you to take your Instagram down." And it's like, why are you pursuing her in the first place?
If she's got that on social, like,
Exactly. She's got that on
if
social
she's that
media.
kind of girl,
She's
she's
making
telling
her
you what kind of girl
she's
she
making
is.
herself available. So it's
Yeah.
what's the point, right? Like there is no point in that. You could just say, "No,
Yeah.
actually I'm going to. So,
Yeah, like for me, when Andre and I were dating, I think if he would have been uncomfortable with me being on social media, and there really are guys, and there are guys that are uncomfortable with it for no other reason than the fact that they think it's pointless and they think it's just not a good use of the girl's time, and it's just an inappropriate thing for people to be on all the time, posting like weird poses and all that. And so, and I think that's completely harmless. I know people have issues with that, but if Andre was like that, I probably definitely would have taken that into consideration, and I probably would not have the platform I do now on there, and I
I
would
th-
have really hardly posted at
well,
all
I
because even when we were dating, I respected him enough, and I was like, this is the kind of guy I want to marry. I would marry him. So if that's what he would want when we're married, I have no problem with, backing off now and
Yeah,
yeah.
that's a good point. And I think that's because you saw that I was a type of guy you want to marry. The same thing for me. But like I said, if you were posting bikini pictures on there, it would be different, right?
Mhm.
Like if you were posting your body out there for people to see, I would think, maybe I don't want this to be out there. And it can be like a progression thing too. Maybe she was like that before, now she's changed, and now he's like interested, and now she's more traditional and was more marriage minded. In that case, it may be the case that he can mention something. A lot of times you don't even have to say it outright. Like you don't
Yeah.
have to say,
Yeah.
take those pictures down, woman. Like all you gotta do is just literally just say, hey, I noticed you got like some pictures on there.
Mhm.
Like that's kind of
Yeah.
uncomfortable. And that's it,
Yeah.
and then be like,
Exactly.
oh, okay, and then she takes it down. Like, there's no need for it to be a discussion about it or
Yeah,
anything. Like a good
exactly.
woman will just say that. She'd be like, okay, yeah. But
She
to be
she
honest,
can be able to read
bad
how
women,
you think.
bad women won't. Bad women will be like,
Yeah.
well, that's my thing, that's my body, that's my platform, that's my whatever. It's like,
Mhm.
all right, well, that's yours, and you let it be yours on your own then. Like
Yeah.
that. That's how I would just respond.
Mrs. There are no good men in the world.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyways, yeah, I think a man does not have to be blatant, and you should be able to just read how he feels about it. And he shouldn't be afraid also to say, like if he feels like you crossed the line, he shouldn't be afraid to be like, don't you think that's like inappropriate, or that seems inappropriate to
Hmm.
me. Anyways,
Yeah.
nuance and
So maybe you want
such.
to react to this one. Do you guys know Jordan Peterson? Put yes in the chat if you know Jordan Peterson.
Not the
Um,
Instagram one.
hmm?
The Instagram one.
Jordan Peterson?
No.
Well, it was just too long. Like I didn't know what part was good. So this one is Jordan Peterson's daughter, Michaela Peterson. She talks about a lot of the similar things that we talk about, but she is also a single mother, and she sometimes posts like raunchy pictures online. And so
She's
there's,
not a Christian.
I don't think she's a Christian. Actually, she just recently said that she might have converted. So maybe,
Might have converted.
yeah.
Maybe.
I don't. I mean, I'm saying that. I think she did
Oh.
say it, but I'm saying that she might have. I don't know. So anyway, she is with Rollo Tomasi here, which is a guy that talks about alpha male red pill sort of thing. Not a Christian, and so he's reacting to
To her?
Michaela
Full
Peterson,
part.
and his video is called "Why Alpha Females Are Not Happy." So I thought maybe we could react to this one. Is that? I can't tell if this changed.
There we go.
There it is. Maybe this one. It's too slow. Gotta go back to OBS. Okay. Yeah, I think this is probably better. All right.
Full partnership by the time they were 29 or 30, and all the law firms, all the women bailed out, all of them. The law firms couldn't keep them. And I was really, and I talked to the women a lot about this because I was very interested in it, because I knew the law firms were bending themselves over backwards and tying themselves into knots trying to retain these women, because why wouldn't they? Just being greedy capitalists is enough. They don't want to lose their high-performing women because they're performing at the highest level, and
No,
they couldn't keep them.
they're
The
not.
women wanted to have.
They're there because they're quota hires is what they are. It's not so much about performance. It's not, I mean, maybe they're great. Who knows, right? It's not about performance. It's about the fact that those companies, and particularly in California, by the way, those companies have prerequisites placed on them so that they can do business in the states that they're in, right? Whether it's
So I think here they're talking about why women enter the workforce, and Jordan Peterson is saying, well, it's good for women to be in the workforce because then they have all these high performing people in the workforce, right? And Rollo is saying, no, they have women in the workforce because they can basically take advantage of their labor. You know, they make the companies a lot of money, and then they don't have to pay them much.
Mm-hmm.
So
Single most convincing evidence of that. I worked with high-end lawyers in Toronto, high achieving from like junior high all the way through onto the top firms. But that's sort of an apogee, right? And what? Perfectly will.
trying to get to the point where he talks with Michaela.
He talks so slow.
Who, Jordan?
Yes, he's like, and I think that.
Yeah, he does. All right. So here's a real talk. I thought he talked about Michaela here, but maybe we could get these prepared beforehand. Anyways.
Yeah, I feel like we could just react to a few. Well, we have that article that we can react to as well.
Yes, I can pull up the
okay,
article.
I found this article. It's interesting. Along the same lines of the whole social media thing. So this is called "Controlling Husbands Monitor Wives' Social Media Accounts," and I just wanted to read through it, and we can tell our thoughts. So it starts off: a husband who tells his wife to delete her social media account is controlling. Okay. So this lady told her that she would be leaving social media, Facebook, precisely because she wants peace in her home. And I asked her if her husband would also be closing all of his social media accounts. And she said no.
Let me just say equality. This is why a lot of people just harp on this. Like, this is why it triggers a lot of people, is because they're like, if she does it, then why isn't he doing it too?
And people did harp on Andre.
It's like,
They
well,
freaked
why are
out.
you posting and your wife is not posting? It's like, because I am a man and she is a woman. We are not equal. You know, like there's different stages in life. There's different things you got to do. And there's just because my wife does something, I don't have to do it. And I've told that to Sully from the time we were dating. Every time I'm like, there is no such thing as equality. You are going to be different from me. My standards are going to be different from your standards. Well, that's a double standard. Hello. We are not the same. We are different people. We are different sexes.
Mm-hmm.
She is a woman and I am a man. So of course, guess what? The standards for me are way different than the standards for her. You know, what's her standard for money making? Right? What's her standard? What's her standard for protection? Like, if something goes down, what's her standard for protecting me?
Prayer.
There's no standard. Like, she doesn't have a standard to protect me. I'm not gonna go over to Sully and oh my gosh, there's some guy over there that's her. The standard for me is way higher in that. Okay, so the standard for Sully, for my wife, is gonna be higher in other areas. So you can get out with all that.
Shoot. Okay. So this lady whose husband said to leave Facebook says she wanted her opinion on it, and this lady says, do whatever feels right. Do whatever feels right.
This humanist belief that you just follow your heart, find yourself. That's basically what people's advice comes down to. If it feels good and it doesn't harm anyone, then it's okay. It's so pathetic. And as you've said recently a lot, it brews mediocrity. You know, like, that's what it brings. It's the mediocrity. It's like, you just do whatever you want. You just do your thing, boo. And you know what I mean? Like,
it's like whatever you want could
there
be.
is right and wrong, and there's a good way and a bad way to go about things.
Mm-hmm. All right. She says, I don't think like an average Nigerian woman. So Basically, in summary, this lady's husband is very insecure. He doesn't want men making comments on his wife's posts or pictures. If any man does, she is in trouble. According to her, when this happens, he might not even speak to her for days. Many times, she has tried to explain that she has no power over who makes comments, but he remained adamant. I am certain if we are allowed to catch a glimpse of his inbox, he is going to be a troll, and there is a high probability that he is sending nude pictures to other women.
Wow.
That is like, okay, I don't know how far-fetched that claim is, but I think it's just so wrong to jump to that conclusion. Like, why do people in these situations always like jump to the worst conclusions? Like,
Yeah.
instead of being like, okay, yeah, like we explained why I took down, why I put my Instagram on private and went on a hiatus. And then you have these people that are like,
This is what they
that's
think.
because he's abusive.
This is what they think. Turn it off.
Yeah.
Turn
I'm
it
like,
off. And then I go, psh, and she's like, no.
no.
Okay, fine.
Here's my phone.
And then I'm like, psh. That's what people think in their minds.
And then
That's
this
how it goes.
this lady's like, he's probably sending nude pictures to other women, and maybe he just doesn't like it when other men that he doesn't know who they are, maybe, and are just seeing his wife on social media and
Yep.
commenting, wow, you're so beautiful. Like, how is that insecure? Like, that's just, he just wants his woman to be his woman. Like, that's just his preference. No, he could be
Yep.
insecure. He could be sending nude pictures, but you don't know that. And that's so wrong of you to just jump to that conclusion. In my opinion, I think you should give the benefit of the doubt.
Yes.
Anyways, there's more to this article if you want
So
to.
anyways, sorry again.
Oh, sorry.
This is how it went down. Look, yo. You better delete your Instagram now.
And I said,
But no, honey.
oh, but now, Andre.
Now. I said now, woman. Oh, I forgot. I was supposed to psh. I was to go psh. And then she falls down to the ground. And then I'm like, and then I get her, right? And then I'm like, do it now. And she goes, and hits delete.
No. No, but for real, in all seriousness, abuse is not a joke. We are just making
that is
a
how it went
joke
down, guys. Come on, just if you
because
think that's really how it went down, put a W, put a dub in the chat.
how it went down was Andre said, we should do a live and talk about what we're going to do. And I'm like, what are we going to do? And he's like, this is what we're going to do. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, let me tell you now so that when we get on the live, you're not like, anyways.
Well, I had
Which
already
happened.
told you, but
Somebody put a W. So okay, there's more to this article. It's very interesting. So, just skipping ahead because there was another. Okay, according to her, she said that she got into an argument with some men who believe that women who go on social
Where are
media
you
go
at?
there to prostitute. According
Okay.
to her, these men vow that their wives can never be on any social media platform. Just once again, I don't see how on earth that's wrong because you know how every study on social media and mental health says that there's a negative correlation, okay? And
yeah, that's
and
true.
there is
Good point.
so much comparison, so much nastiness. So like you can even within like these good like Christian communities, there's still just garbage and drama and all this stuff. And if Andre was like, I don't ever want you on social media, like that place is toxic.
Yeah, seriously.
And
Hey, by the way, a year ago, so someone sent Soli a message that was like, "Hey, are you looking for some help right now, or someone to be with you and to financially help you out? Because you can be my sugar baby." And then we were like, "Wow, she actually got." It was more than a year ago, I think, and because she didn't have that many followers, and we were like, "Oh my gosh, someone just asked her if she wanted to be a sugar baby, right?" And I forgot to do this. Sorry. And so I was like, we were like, wow, shocked. But then last week, I got propositioned to be a sugar baby as well. So anyway, people online, that was the
They-
point of that
like-
was to say, like, people online are so nasty that we
Yeah.
understand why people would not want their family on there, kids especially.
and
But so
even-
you think that your wife is a child? You're supposed to protect your wife's innocence. You're not supposed to
Yeah.
throw her out into the wolves. I don't want what husband would want his wife to be receiving some nasty stuff.
Mhm.
I mean, just think about it, guys. Just think about
After
it.
this, Andre's gonna be like, no more social media.
We're making our case over here.
He's gonna be like, now that we talked it out.
But I mean, if when you see so these platform, thankfully, and I always say that I always tell her it's good when people unfollow you, because we're not trying to be the biggest stars on the planet. And if we did, we would know what to do. We would talk about self-love. We would talk about, you know what I mean? Like, we would talk about things that don't anger anyone.
Stretch marks and
Yeah, so we are not trying to be
cellulite.
the biggest stars in the world.
Mhm.
What we're trying to be is to put the truth out there. We do like creating, we do like,
Aesthetics.
yeah, and putting good things out there that we think are quality, but we are trying to put the right message out there and be forth and honest. So that's why when people unfollow you, it's a good thing, because you're killing, the herd. Is that a good term? Like, you're making sure that the people that stay on are people that are actually with the
Actually
message.
support me and actually,
And
yeah.
actually support the message, and
Yeah.
are not like, oh yeah, la, la, la," like they freak out about things that we think are just normal to
Yeah.
believe in.
And honestly, like, after being, I guess I've had my platform for a few years now, and after being on it, I'm like, no wonder some people think like that, because sometimes okay, y'all, but I just gotta say it. Women on the internet sometimes just need to not be on the internet sometimes. Like, I'm just gonna keep it so vague, but I just see stuff, and you guys know, you guys listening, like, you guys know a lot of what I'm talking about, but it's just like, why? Who let this woman?
Who let the
What
dogs
husband let this woman put that up on this platform? I'm like, oh my goodness. Anyways,
Yeah, and it's funny because it's like then you hear a lot of women just say like, my husband supports me and I'm not supposed to be. It's like, yeah, because he's a beta male. It's like, because a strong man would never allow you to be putting all on that and embarrassing him.
Yeah.
And also when people send me messages, so he's like, what is it with these women that send you messages and they think that like you can just talk to my husband like that? Like,
I know.
it's
Some people are just out of control and they need to be controlled. They
but
need to
there
be
is the
put under wraps.
the good side of social media is that we get to connect with people like you.
Yeah. So okay. I
You wanna
think
keep going.
okay, yeah. So I've heard stories of men who ban their spouses from social media interactions because they may not know some of their social media friends or the nature of their relationships. So it arouses suspicion. I think men, I'm skipping around. I think men who reason this way without any evidence for their wives need to be checked up by a combined team of deliverance pastor,
Wow.
clinical psychologist, and psychiatrist.
At least they got the Trinity there.
Men are definitely clocked in at the early stage of the insanity spectrum. I don't get how that's
Wow.
so insane. Like, do you know how easy it is for people to slide into your wife's DMs? Like,
Yeah.
it's not that, like, crazy, in my opinion. Like, it's just social media.
Especially if you have like, yeah. At the end of the day. I think most people, that is a lot of people's worth too.
Mhm.
You know, is like their individuality.
Yeah,
all that
and
sort.
having a social media is a big part of that for a lot of people. And if a man was like, I don't want you on social media, they'd be like, but cutting off one of my fingers, like, that's part of who I am. And this is interesting. She says, "Let me clearly state here that having Facebook, Twitter, WhatsApp, Instagram, or Snapchat account doesn't have to lead to jealousy, but it only happens when you are an anxious or untrusting person. And jealousy is not good. I agree. Like you should like jealousy is not a good thing. But that doesn't mean that you have to it's like boundaries, you know? So if you feel like social media is a place where you could definitely like get into some trouble,
True.
then don't be on it.
And I will say for men, that would apply too, you know,
Yeah.
and especially in the lust aspect, I think for men, you know, for maybe for women it's different, but for a lot of men, being on social media, being on some of these platforms will not only will you encounter things that shouldn't not be on there that are nasty, to not say a different word, you know, just sensual things that should not be on there, things that should only happen between married people. But also, they encounter, you know, just regular women that are putting their bodies online, and that's too much lust. That's too tempting, you know. That's too tempting for a lot of men, and
Yeah.
maybe even not just that, but also like propositioning to other women, or other women, you know, being interested in them, and that's too big of a temptation. So for some men, it actually probably is better too to let go of that, so that that would not be a stumbling block. You know, like the Bible says, if your hand causes you to sin, it's best to chop it off. And I just can't imagine what non-Christians listening to this, they're like, what?
And like
He said to chop off your hand?
And just think about it. Like a man has a vision for his family. He might not want social media to even be a part of that. In some people's mind, like they don't even want that. They don't want their wife to be posting or taking in all that stuff, because at the end of the day, it really is unimportant. You can learn a lot, you can connect with people, but at the end of the day, it is just social media. And I love social media. I use it like we've said, but
I mean, just the type of person that you've become in this short period of time when you haven't been on Instagram is like amazing. Like, I wish that on everyone. Like, it's so crazy because, like I said, it's usually when you are more productive, like when your productivity rises, you're miserable, especially at first, because you're like, I got so much on my plate. But Soli's plate, when she took Instagram off of it, she was like free, and she's like, oh, now I'm gonna use like this mental energy to take care of my home. And like the joy is, like, as I've said, is the best aspect of it.
thank you.
Because just kidding. The joy is the best aspect of it, because
real men cry too.
because we men just want joy and peace in their home.
And girls just want to have fun.
Exactly. So when you have joy and peace in your home, you don't need much else. I mean, you need some things, but not much else. Because you like coming home and having peace, and just like I've told Soli before, I would prefer, if I had an option between like an elaborate meal or a very simple meal, but like having the simple meal with complete peace and joy, I would choose a simple meal every time, because I want, you know, every man, I think, just wants to be in a peaceful home, and the Bible talks about the nagging and the contentious woman, like, and we all know some nagging and contentious women. Like, it's a type that you're like, oh my, can I just like, you
like,
don't
I'm
even
not
know what
even
to
married
say.
to you, and I want to like bash my head into a wall.
For real. But thankfully my wife is not, my father has blessed me with it.
I'm not. What is it, like the drip?
Yeah, the drip that keeps on dripping.
Anyways, so
Keep
back
reading
to this. So there is a story of a man who hacked into his wife's social media account. This man used the software to gain access into her phones and emails.
That's too much, all right?
Okay, first of all, if you have to hack into your wife's accounts using, you should already know all her passwords and everything. Like, you should be able to just pick up her phone and like look.
Well, this thing is like, I was just telling Soli, I watched this YouTube channel where people cheat, or they're suspecting that their boyfriends or girlfriends are cheating, and then they get this team to go follow them around and basically test them to see if they would cheat. It's like we've all seen TV shows like that before, but this time it's like a YouTube channel that does this. So it's very entertaining. But I told Soli, it's like everyone knows that when you get to that point where you're like, I'm going to test them to see if they would cheat, the relationship is pretty much over. Like you should not be non-trusting.
That shouldn't even be a thought in your mind. Like,
Yep.
I'm going to test. Like, you don't do that.
Yep.
To
You
people
don't.
you
Exactly. You don't do that to people you love. Like, you don't test them. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like, why would you test to see if they would? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Your trust is already eroded, and that
Mhm.
relationship is like non-existent at this point. So you've got to take care of things before they get to that point where you would not, you would not even do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's just crazy because in our relationship, like we can just go on each other's like phones, emails, our all of our Google accounts are connected and everything like that. You know, we know how to get into each other's phones, whatever. So to me, that's just crazy. Even that he has to make a concerted effort to go out of his way to like see what his wife is doing. Like that's crazy to me.
Yeah, but it is crazy. That's true. But it is also crazy how far he went into to doing all that.
It says he planted a tracking device on her car. Why couldn't he just be up front with his wife?
Yes, exactly. Good point. Oh, I forgot to do this. Yeah, good point. You have to be upfront. As a man, just be upfront. Just tell her, hey, where were you at?
Yeah, like
And
why?
if she's lying, this is the thing too. It's like I notice that when someone is lying, you know that like when your wife is lying, you should know she's lying,
Yeah.
or at least being vague.
You would know if I was lying.
Yeah.
I would not be able to lie.
Yeah, and then like it's solely does when she wants to know something. There's no getting around it. Like she's gonna know it. And there's been actually the times when I think she's gotten the most mad is when she wants to know something and I don't tell her. And she gets like extremely angry about that. And it might be the dumbest thing, like, oh,
It
I
is
got ice
dumb,
cream, like
but
I,
it's
I went to
like,
get a
I
smoothie.
wanna know.
Like where were you at? And I'm just like trying to play with her. So I'm like,
He
it's none of your
messes with
business.
me
And
sometimes.
she's like, but where were you at? And I'm like, I told you it's none of your business. And I'm just messing with her, right? And she's like, okay.
Okay, it doesn't. It's
And
not.
then she wants to know, like she does not drop it. Like it could be
I'm gonna defend
it
myself.
could be the next day. And she's like still like, no.
Because it's not like I'm like, where were you? Like, who are you with? Where were you?
Yeah,
I'm just
exactly.
like,
she's not like that.
I'm just
She's
like,
right.
what were you doing? And
Yeah.
he's like, nothing. And I'm like, oh my goodness. So we're doing this.
Yeah. So that a little bit be like, so what'd you go? I'm like, I got a smoothie. And that was why she was upset for like 4 hours.
This is a very, very specific example.
Because it actually is what happened.
Yes, it is. It's based on a true story.
Yeah. Yeah.
Man.
But so anyway,
Sometimes I'm like, you can like the big brother in Andre. He has 2 sisters, and sometimes he just like channels that. It's true.
Yeah, it is true. But it's interesting because Soli, like if I'm being secretive about something, Soli's like,
I know immediately.
It's not
if
that she
he's-
wants to know. I mean, she does want to know in some cases, obviously, like I just said. But it's not like she's like, well, what were you doing
Yeah,
like
it's
that?
not
Not
like
at all.
that.
It's just like she's just like curious, right?
Mhm.
And and so that's a way that I think that a marriage should be is like you should know your wife enough to know that like
Mhm.
if you tell her where were you at and she's like, oh, I just went somewhere else, like you're like,
Yeah, you should.
you know what I'm saying? Like
something was
you should
going
know.
on.
You should not need a tracking device on her car. That's like so excessive.
Yeah.
If she is cheating, and if you have that suspicion, you gotta do it, like, face it head on. Don't just go about like a roundabout way. And maybe you are married to a super omega liar. In that case, I'm sorry.
We can't help you.
Yeah.
Okay, this is funny. She says, I find it very difficult to understand the master-slave relationship.
Where are you at?
Oh, sorry. I skipped
Okay.
down. I find it very difficult to understand the master-slave relationship going on in many marriages, all in the name of submission. I am of the opinion that a wife should be a friend and not a servant. So if she is your friend, why would you deprive her of basic things? It is a pity that some husbands treat their wives like a TV set, which they can easily tune to any channel at will. They even carry the remote around. All they have to do is just press a button, and their wives will be at their beck and call.
See, they say all the things, but they spin it into this sinister, evil thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, yeah, of course. What husband would not want his wife to be at his beck and call? Hello?
That's like called being a wife?
Like, what husband would not want someone like to be able to call his wife and be like, hey, I'm going to be home in 15 minutes. Do you think you can put a meal together for me? Like, can we be honest
social
here?
Media right now.
Can you put an H in the chat if you want to be honest? Put an H in the chat, because if we can be honest, what husband is not going to want that from his wife? But they flip it and pretend that it's like this sinister thing. It's a slave.
Master slave.
It's a slave relationship, and you're depriving her of basic things. No, you're actually providing for her.
Yeah. Okay. Social media is not like a basic life need. Okay. It's just, and she's like, I am of the opinion that a wife should be a friend and not a servant. Well, listen, if you're a Christian, I don't think this lady's a Christian. Maybe she is. She could be, actually, in name, whatever. But first of all, we're all called to be servants to one another. Christ came to serve and not be served. That's literally in the Bible. Okay? So, first of all, we're all called to be servants. Second of all, that's part of our role as wives, is to be servants to our husbands. And that's a beautiful thing. And I think there is a difference between like a slave and a servant, right? I don't know. It doesn't matter. We're not going down that rabbit trail.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is that she makes it sound, like you were saying, so bad.
Mm-hmm.
But as Christians, our joy and our delight and our everything is serving others. It's serving Christ. It's serving our families, our friends, strangers. Like, that's who we are as Christians. Like, that's part of the definition of being a Christian, is to be a servant to others. Mm-hmm. And it's, I don't know, it's just a beautiful thing. And as wives, we're called to be our husband's helpmates. We're supposed to be helpers. A lady I listened to, she says, we are helpers suitable, because that's what the Bible says. He created a helper suitable for him. And part of that is being able to do the will of our husband. And if you marry a good man, he's not going to take advantage of his leadership to put you down, but instead he's going to make decisions and require things of you for the betterment of the family. Really, he's going to want what's best for you and the children, and obviously himself too. Like, he doesn't want to be in the streets or whatever, so whatever decisions he's got to make to be able to provide more, anyway.
Nice little speech.
So
do you want to keep reading this?
Yeah, you can like skip down a little bit. There is no, okay, here we go.
Okay, here.
My main point of contention, I'm starting up a sentence, is that anyone who asks you to delete your social media account for whatever reason is not worthy of companionship, and therefore such requests should not be entertained. There's no justifiable reason for an adult to ask another adult to delete his or her Twitter. Blah, blah. For every single person reading this, if you are in a relationship with anyone who tells you to leave social media for whatever reason, please run. That person is a monster waiting to unleash his or her wiles. Run as fast as you can.
Run,
Bye.
Sully. Run. Run now.
Bye, guys. Okay, first of all, she says for whatever reason. If for whatever reason, I wonder if she actually meant for whatever reason, or if she just was thinking like
It's one
for
of those
whatever reason
things.
she says in her mind. Because I'm like, you don't think a guy should like tell his wife to delete her social media if she keeps flirting with men online? Like,
No, because that's her choice.
if she wants to flirt with men, she's not a monster, but he is.
So true, man. We got to do an episode just solely on the I don't know if it's narcissism, but it's like solipsism of women. Of what that means is how they are so, most women, not all women, but most women are so in the West today, they're enwrapped completely with their own personhood. They think that the world begins and ends with themselves.
Mm-hmm.
It's like
Yep.
they can't
It's
imagine
insane.
someone doing something for the good of the community or that doesn't benefit them.
This
you know,
fetus broke into my womb. I'm calling 911.
it broke into my womb.
I don't even know how it got there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. Don't let anyone tell you that it is because you prioritize entertaining and being with friends and being friends with strangers over the woman or man in your life. That is BS. If you must deactivate your account, it must be because you want to, not because somebody is telling you to do that to prove how much you care. Her like the way she writes is a little bit like, even if your wife was caught cheating on social media, do you think it would stop her? An incurable cheat will always be one, and no amount of your ban can stop her from doing what she loves doing. Do you hear how insane this is? She's like, so I was right. So she is talking about literally any reason. If the woman is literally cheating, he can't say anything, or else he's the bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my word, that's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
Oops. How do I zoom out? So, if your wife is spending so much time on social media, talk to her and tell her you want more of her time, and I think that is more reasonable than banning her outright. I mean, yeah, I agree with that.
that.
I agree with that.
I don't think
Finally,
it's,
you made a good point.
Yeah. Finally, girl. Yeah. Do you want me to read this part?
Yeah.
I have a friend who thinks his wife is sharing too much on social media. They both sat down and agreed on what should be out there and what shouldn't. Okay, that's reasonable too. Like, these are reasonable. But sitting there and just like saying that a guy is an abuser because he asks his wife to take down social media is not reasonable.
I think the thought of men having authority over the wife is what triggers people.
Because this is all about like you come
Agreement,
together,
right?
And there's nothing
And it's
wrong
like,
with
there
that.
is
inherently.
agreement because the man is an authority over his wife.
And I married him and agreed to submit to him. So
yeah, it's interesting because that's what, like, the authority aspect is what people really, really don't like. The fact that a man can tell a woman or his wife, no, you're not going to do this. You're going to do this. You know, even if he may say it not in that way, but he can say it, in a better way. But at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. And I think that's the triggering part for most.
Mm-hmm. And do you think that there's a wrong way that a man would say that? Like, what do you say? Like, give an example.
Like, if you come home and just randomly say, I deleted your social media because you're becoming a total snitch,
Like, no way that's not going to
And
cause
yeah, of
a
course.
problem. Like, the wife is going to
Of
freak out.
course, because you're not supposed to, like, that's the part about, I actually agree with gentleness. So you have to be firm, but you also have to tell the truth in the right way.
Yeah.
and and one thing that I've learned is when it comes to people in your interpersonal relationships, you can't just, or you shouldn't communicate based on what you feel the other person should do. So, well, I want you to do this and you didn't do this, so like and so I'm upset now. That's actually going to be, they're actually going to be less likely to do whatever you want to do. So even just from a selfish standpoint, it's like you just have to learn how to express what it is you want so that they understand that it is both of our benefits, right? It's like it benefits me, it benefits you. Maybe there's a third party involved that it benefits too. And that's the way that I think you should approach it. If a man communicates in that way where it's just like, just yelling and being, of course, like, now I think, and this is where I think most people would disagree with me, that the wife is still under the obligation to obey and submit to her husband. However, I think that the husband is an obligation to treat his wife in the right way too. And so he's wrong in that, and he should not do that.
But I do want to say that I do think that she still has an obligation to obey, and I don't think that is inherently abusive. Like, if he came home and was like, "Get off social media, woman," because so often, like feminists and whoever, they're like, "Oh, men are abusive. Like, that man is abusive. He yells at his wife all the time." And I'm like, well, how often does the wife yell at her husband? Like, how often does the wife do things that are bad to her husband? Like, just because a man does that, not saying that it's right, but I'm also saying that doesn't always just mean, abuse. That doesn't equate to abuse. And so, yeah, I think that we also have to be really careful what we call abuse and what we don't call, and what we call abuse, because real abuse is actually serious. I know we were kind of, joking around earlier, but
yes, that's true.
But real abuse is serious. And so when you say things like that, like, he took away her social media,
and that's abusive.
And then what if a woman is upset at her husband and he doesn't really have a pattern of like doing that kind of thing, but she's really mad that he took away her social media. And now in her mind, she's like, "Oh, he's an abuser because that's what the psychologists or whoever say is abuse,"
Yep.
And so you just have to be careful, because not everything in his mama is abusive or whatever. So yeah.
Look, she ended up agreeing at the end. "I know two couples who believe in sharing a mobile PIN, email password, and social media login details. Wow, this is the best way to commit to someone. Oh, these are my favorite couples. They share everything and keep nothing away. I feel more couples should emulate these instead of snooping around or declaring state of emergency on social media." So her last two paragraphs basically agreed with everything we're saying, but those middle ones were rough.
Yeah. And this is the last paragraph, I believe. Yeah. Interestingly, there are couples who are not even friends on social media, and their love is strong. Why would you not be friends with your person on social media? Also, I know couples who are friends who hardly relate on the platform, and there are some who flaunt their relationship too. If you feel it is toxic for your relationship, unfriend or block yourself.
That's terrible advice.
And yeah.
See, I have to make a distinction here, because people say, "Well, social media is not you." It's like, it kind of is. Like, it's not all of you, and it might be a small part of you, but it also is an extension of who you are. Now, it may be like a special, like, decorative, edited version of you, but it's still a version of you. Just like if you were to meet, the Queen of Spain, I don't know. If you were to meet the Queen of Spain, like, you would probably present a version of yourself that is, a polished version of yourself. And if you were to meet, your your best friend that you hang out with all the time for coffee, or just like hang out at home in sweatpants, that version of yourself would be different. So it's the same way. It's like it's just it's just an extension of
It's like a
who you are.
representation, I would
Right.
say.
So it's like for some people it's different. For some people it doesn't mean much. But it's still like that's why I don't agree with this, because it says like it's basically implying that you can be a different person than your social media is. So it's like if you see them posting on social media and it bothers you, then you just ignore it. Is basically what she's saying.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you could just ignore it and have a happy relationship. It's like, no, if my wife is posting things on social media that I don't like, then that's not right. You know, so it's like it's an extension of her too. And so that's what I would say to that. It's just like there's a different mentality for sure.
Yeah, but telling your wife to sacrifice her social media account on the altar of your ego is not only childish, it is foolish too. Okay.
It ain't that serious. I mean, it is. It may be a small representation of you, like you said, but it's not that serious to sacrifice your social media account
On the altar of your ego. I mean, well, maybe it is for some guys. I don't know.
What do you mean?
Like, maybe they do take it that seriously. Is that what she's saying?
I don't know.
Telling your wife to sacrifice her social media on the altar of your... It's... Anyways.
I should probably hide the ads.
Oh, yeah. Oh, whoa. What on earth? Okay,
That's
they
funny.
can't see it, can they?
They can, for sure.
Oh, wow.
That's hilarious.
Anyways, that's a whole different article, but you know, there's two sides to every coin.
We should get ad
It takes
block
two
on
to
this
tango. You know, there's shades of gray. Not everything is black and white. I'm just trying to say as much nuanced phrases as I can.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why people. The other thing that people assume is, like you said, they assume the worst of everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just becomes this like this weird dynamic where whatever perception of you or our relationship or anyone's relationship they see online is what they think reality is like.
Yes, exactly. They think what happens, and I think everybody does this with everybody, but especially very negative people, and like the haters really, but they think that they have you down. Like they know exactly who you are. They know your personal life. They can read your every thought. They know when you sit and when you rise, when you lay down, like that song. But they think that they actually know you and they've got a good handle and they know what's going on in your lives. And you know, they're dead wrong, except that one person that said Eric was cute as a button. They were right.
Oh, so he's talking about the people on Reddit.
Yeah. They were like,
so that was a very specific.
I hate these people, but their little baby is as cute as a button or something along those lines. But anyways, yeah, what they do is they basically frame this idea of this is what they're like. And so in their minds, you know, in the haters' minds, not even just the Reddit people. Well, the Reddit people think that Andre is a terrifying, like, boogeyman or something. But people just have this idea of Andre being very, like, I don't even know what they think you are. Like,
I don't know either.
They just think you're, like, mean and you are, I don't know, do they think you're serious? I feel like they take you so seriously. Like, people...
They think I'm very dangerous, and
yeah, the
right.
haters like take you so seriously. Like everything you post, you're like, he posted this. We don't like jokes.
He posted a joke on Instagram. Yeah,
and he's like, yes, and I'm serious.
Yeah,
about this joke.
I get it. I mean, some people take everything at face value.
Yeah, don't do that on social media. Social media etiquette tip.
And
etiquette with Soli and Andre.
But I get it too, because it's like if I post something, you know, I'm thinking of like my 5 to 10 people that would think it's hilarious, you know. Like I'm thinking
Yeah.
of like 5 to 10 close people, and then for like, you know, 50
Everyone else
people.
is like, I don't care if you unfollow me.
Yeah. Yeah, and then but also like I understand that like people that don't have never heard anything like that, they're like they freak out because they've never heard anything, you know, so to them is like so extreme out there.
Including the fact that you were the one that made the decision to, you know, put my page on private and a hiatus. They're like, what? But it's really not a big thing. Like we just did a whole podcast about it, but it really is not a big deal at all.
Well, I
And
think that part of it was just the title was pretty good.
yeah, yeah.
It was a pretty good title.
It was.
Clickbait. She came up with that.
Actually, you said it in passing.
Oh, really?
Yes, and then I was like,
Made
I gotta
my
write that
wife
down.
Delete her Instagram. I
He's
think I
like,
might make
we should do a podcast about that. I was like, that's a good idea, because I'm the one who like has to come up with the ideas and stuff for the podcast.
She's the producer.
Hey, what do producers do, Andre?
They come up with like
No,
the
like
show.
the hand sign. Because I
Oh.
said A, but that just looks lame. I'm
Well,
a
you
mom
are
now. I'm
wearing
not
your
cool
headphones,
anymore.
and I'm not. So
Anyways,
producer points for that.
We're just rambling at this point. I feel like
Yeah.
maybe I'm just rambling.
But if you liked this and you want us to do more of these podcast episodes, make sure you say yes in the chat.
Say yes to
Say
the dress.
yes in the chat. And we would love to keep doing these. I'm going to save this. It's been recorded, and I'm going to upload it as a podcast episode too. We are probably not going to do this on this channel maybe. I haven't decided yet.
Mm-hmm.
But let us know what you guys think, because I want this channel to be music, just Sully and I with the music. And I have my own channel too, Ray Andre, if you look that up. I'm at 5,000 subs, so if you want to help get me to 6,000, that'd be great. And I post like music reactions. I'm gonna post reactions to a bunch of stuff. And then Sully has her YouTube channel too. It's just Sully. And yeah, you should subscribe to us there.
All right. Bye, guys.
Thank you,
Thanks
guys.
for watching.
We'll see you guys later. Bye bye.